Today's show is sponsored by Talkspace, the online therapy company. For as little as $32 a week, you can work with an experienced, licensed therapist handpicked just for you. On Talkspace, you can send text, audio, and video messages to your therapist and talk about your life, work through what's keeping you up at night, or you just work on feeling a little bit happier. Doesn't that sound nice? That's what I do with my therapy. I aim to remove the stress and install happiness. Now, you want to sign up, you want to learn more, you go to Talkspace.com/beautiful. And to show your support for this podcast, use code BEAUTIFUL to get $30 off your first month. That is beautiful at Talkspace.com/beautiful. Support for today's show comes from Squarespace. Whether you need a portfolio to showcase your work, a store to sell your products and services, or a blog to share your ideas, Squarespace gives you everything you need to make your next move into a reality. Squarespace, I use it. You get in there, you mess around, you move things around yourself. It's very intuitive, very easy. I love it. It's simple. It's nice to feel some sense of control over my own web space. Not to mention, Squarespace is beautifully designed templates. They got customizable features. You create a beautiful website. It's simple, okay? You add, arrange content all with the click of a mouse. No need to know how to code. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter offer code CG to get 10% off your first purchase. Hello to all my bull-charging high school football players out there. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hello, everybody. Friend Chris Gethard here, bringing you another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. Guess what, guys? Good news! The tour is over. You no longer have to hear me plug upcoming dates at the top of the show. Thank you to everybody who came out on the tour. It was so cool. Such a good time. Traveled all over North America, from Vancouver all the way to Jersey, and many stops in between. And I gotta say, it was so nice to meet all you guys. I learned in a big way, man. Beautiful Anonymous fans, nice people, like to hug, like to be honest, open, kind people. And I have to say, I'm really lucky. I realized that out on the road. The world right now, people are mad, people are divided, and I feel like I am prone to anxiety. I haven't been feeling that anxiety, and I realized it's because I'm in the middle, randomly in the middle of this community that actually wants to listen to other human beings, wants to empathize with other people. And I can't say it enough. Every single person out there who I got to shake your hand, I said thank you. Look everybody in the eye, every listener of this show, thank you. Thank you for giving me this gift, the ability to do this show. And so nice to meet so many of you. Last week's call, very positive reception, although streak continues. No episode has ever been met with universal acclaim. I did see one guy in the Facebook group say with our deaf episode, so one person did say they felt like the sign language interpreter was a liar and there was no deaf man present. I did see one person say, I don't think this was true. I think this person was a liar, which I have to, in my heart, just pray is not the case, because that would mean the world is awful if that was all made up. Most people really behind it. Most people very excited, and me as well. A lot. I did announce, if you didn't hear, at the end of last week's episode, we put out a poster. All my profits from that poster will not come to me. They will be donated towards transcribing past episodes of Beautiful Anonymous. My hope is that we can someday have every single episode, just stretching back to episode 1, transcribed so that the deaf community can experience the show. I think that would be cool. You go to podswag.com/beautiful. That's where all the Beautiful Anonymous merch lives, but that's not what's important right now. That poster's up there. I don't get any profit from that when it goes towards transcribing. And many people in the Facebook group saying they would like to help transcribe, that they would do it for free. My thought on that, that's so kind. That thread is there. All your names, I'm going to take you up on it. We have such a massive back catalog at this point. Many, like 75, 80 hours, I think, maybe, if you add it all up. I want to take the money from the poster, get as much as we can done. Whatever's left, I'm going to start asking you guys to help out. I'll take you up on it. And then moving forward, we'll need help. We'll come up with some system. Thank you. Thank you all for being such kind people who want to help. That Facebook group, very positive place. I met 2 moderators from the Facebook group on the road. I met Alex in Seattle. I met Noelle in New Jersey. Nice, sweet people. Thank you guys. This week's episode, very excited about it. I have not stopped thinking about this conversation since I had it. It's 3 acts. This person tells us about their job, and they have an interesting job, a job that, by definition, we don't ever think about. We don't ever see. We don't ever think about the fact that this person's there watching person whose job is to watch us go about our daily lives. Initially fun, light take on that. Then in the middle, this call takes a real departure into something that I promise you won't see coming. Tonally does not match anything else. Lifestyle-wise does not match anything else brought up. And then we move on. It's a pretty quick blip, but I'm telling you, you won't see it coming. Then we return to the job stuff. I'm warning you now, it actually gets real. Gets a little sad. A certain story that came up in this one, in the third portion of this call, that I can tell you has stuck in my gut in a real big way since I heard it. And this episode, heartbreaking, funny, twists and turns. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Caller, I hope you're out there doing well. Enjoy the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
It's pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. Just at work right now. I work in loss prevention, so basically I'm sitting in a retail store in a little dark room, watching security cameras and trying to find somebody that's stealing merchandise.
And you're there right now?
Yeah.
So first of all, I should say, there's a chance you might have to put down the phone and go bust somebody.
There is. It's still early in the day, so generally we don't have too much that's going on at this point. But
that's good.
There is that chance, yes.
And we are lucky this is not a show that's broadcast live, or else people would start actively shoplifting, knowing that there's at least one distracted loss prevention professional in this world right now.
Very true. But to be completely honest, I mean, there's a lot of downtime, in this business. So, just kind of sitting here and watching, cameras, I can do that not generally while I'm listening to podcasts, but also, I can do that while talking on the phone or doing a variety of things.
Yeah.
So, not too distracted.
That's good. Okay. That's cool. This immediately brings to mind, if I may, a very quick story from my life that I think you might appreciate. You might get a kick out of. Okay, my brother's best friend is named George. Kid we grew up with. George, a great guy. George is also a man of extremes and kind of a cartoon character at times, especially when we were kids. And he worked at a store in our town. It was kind of like it had a pharmacy, but it was also sort of like a mini department store. Worked in the video department and the video rentals. It's a relic from the past. And showed up at work one day and he was pulling into a parking spot and this guy sprinted out of the store, sprinted across the parking lot. And George's manager ran out of the car and yelled, "George, shoplifter, we got a shoplifter." And it was so intense that George kind of snapped, started chasing the guy in his car. Supposedly, he actually hit him. Guy went down. George immediately was like, George was like, "What? Oh no, what did I do?" The guy was fine. He was out of it. And the cops showed up. But George used to rent movies on the cheap to the cops. He used to give cops free rentals. So they were like, "Georgie, get out of here. Get out of here, man. Just get out of here right now."
Yeah, that's a little nuts.
Yeah, that's one of those stories from my hometown where I grew up where I think it's funny and then I say it out loud and I'm like, oh, people are disturbed by that. That's okay. It's Jersey.
It's definitely a more old school philosophy with things. There's a lot of companies now that, are completely hands off and they don't want you touching anybody. And I mean, that definitely goes for, getting in a car and running somebody down.
For sure. So what are your strategies? And have you have you become like a superhero at this? Can you see somebody on a screen and know, all right, the person's about to take something? Do you just know?
A good percentage of the time, yeah. Most of the time, to be completely honest, I mean, I will pick up on somebody as they, pull into the parking lot or as they get out of their car and walk into the store. And at that point, I already, have a fairly good idea. I'd say, most of the time that I pick up on somebody, as soon as they walk in, I'm really just hoping that they don't steal at that point. Because, if I pick up on somebody, I know 100% it's like, all right, well, I'm going to have to call, police, going to have to make sure that, they're aware of the situation so they can be in the area and, all of that stuff. It's a weird, it's kind of like a weird dichotomy because, like, on one hand, you want people to steal because that's your job to go and catch them, and we get graded on that, like on how many people that we catch over the course of a year. But on the other hand, it's like I don't want anybody to make bad choices for themselves. So it's tough doing this job and being a liberal and trying to reconcile the two of them. But at the same time, it's I've been doing it for about 10 years now. So.
Wow. And what is it? How do you know when someone gets out of their car? So you guys have cars in the parking lot. What are the things that raise your red flags, raise your hackles?
It's it's a lot of things. I mean, we definitely look for specific types of cars. It kind of in this business, we have obviously different terminology every type of industry has, but we look for what's called booster car. So booster is somebody that kind of just steals for a living, or kind of steals to have like a drug habit or something like that. And so a lot of times we see cars that come in the parking lot if they're missing hubcaps, if they're missing paint, if they're missing things like that. We'll watch the people get out, and that's an indication. It's tough to say though, because I mean there are certain things where we look for a lot of behaviors and not specific not specific things that like people look like or anything like that. We don't discriminate. We don't look at people and say, oh well, they must steal because they look this way. Most of it's just very subtle behavior and just very small things. And there's some big things too. Like, so for instance, if somebody comes in with a purse that is rather large, that has no weight to it at all, and I've gotten pretty good at being able to tell if somebody has a purse and there's only a thing of chapstick inside of it. If somebody comes in with that, I know almost 100% it's game on. They're gonna load that thing up. But other times it's something that's just as simple as they come in, they look up at the security camera and quickly dart into a department rather than staying on the main aisle, and that's how I'll know as well. So it all depends.
Wow. So there's certainly behavioral stuff, but sounds like admittedly there's some elements of profiling here. Like you see somebody with like a beat up car. There's some there's certainly some classist stuff in there, right? Like that's part of the gig. That must be weird to reconcile.
Yeah, I mean again, it's difficult because you don't intentionally go in with mindset of okay, this person looks like this, so therefore they're gonna steal. But I mean, there are certain, I'd say, patterns that you pick up on, and certain things where I want to say with all the stuff that's been going on with officers and officer involved shootings and things like that, a lot of the talk about the what term am I looking for? The unconscious bias.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think some of that might play in with loss prevention as well, where after we see certain types of people and certain types of behavior, especially. And again, I can't stress enough. We strictly go off of behavior, but it definitely factors into who you're going to watch and who you're going to spend a little bit more time watching and who you're not going to spend more time on. So.
Right. And it is, I mean, at the very least, it's there's certainly, I'm sure there are some people listening right now going like, oh yeah, I mean, that is brutal. But it is certainly nice to hear you say you're aware there's unconscious bias. We have to constantly remind ourselves of that. Seems like I'm sure there are people in your industry who are, there are probably people in your industry who are lean into that stuff in a way that I would imagine has to be very concerning and awful. But it sounds like at the very least you are on top of no, at the end of the day, someone has to pick something up, boost something for me to care. Yeah,
that's very true. So I've worked for 4 different companies in the past 10 years doing the same thing. And I can say for, all the companies that I worked for, they do a pretty good job of weeding out, the bad actors and the people that just aren't cut out for, this type of work, and the people that are going to make, bad decisions because, they they watch people that, like, or they make judgments on people that haven't necessarily done anything. If, we go out and we stop somebody and they don't have any merchandise on them, it's what's called an NPI, or a non-productive incident. And I mean, that's something that's taken very seriously. So, pretty much any company that I've been with, I know a lot of others that I haven't been with, if you get, one of those, and you can't, if you missed certain things that you were supposed to see before you went out to make that stop, sometimes it's an automatic termination, and other times it's, kind of a, we'll talk about it and see what exactly happened. We'll watch the video. But a lot of that kind of, weeds out the people that are just going to go and make really bad, decisions, and really discriminatory decisions, I should say.
Right. That's really good to know that the industry has those safeguards, that you get these NPIs, you start searching people for no reason. Hey, guess what? You're fired. That's actually very good to hear. Because I think I would imagine you run into this a lot, where there's people assuming that there's a bias going into it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a tough situation because it is retail. So, I mean, you're going to deal with the public and you're going to deal with a wide variety of people. But it's also, I'm the only person in my store that is actually allowed to, kind of be mean, or not necessarily mean, but, be a little bit more real with some of the people that I interact with. I don't have to, bend over and do all the nice customer service stuff and make sure everything's right. I'm kind of just going out and saying, hey, you have our stuff, like, we need to talk about this. And I mean, 90% of the time that is going to resolve in, police charges and things like that being filed. But at the same time, and we're here doing our job, and we don't necessarily want to get anybody in trouble, but I mean, we get paid to kind of make sure that our stuff is staying inside the building and that people are being prosecuted for their actions.
Wow. So you're not just an eye in the sky. You're not getting on a walkie-talkie and saying, hey, got a situation. You get down on the floor, you look somebody in the eye, and you say, hey, I need to talk to you over here real quick, sir or madam.
Oh, absolutely. Most of the time that, if I see somebody, I guess I should probably explain, like, what our process is. With most companies, there are, 5 or so, depending on the company, steps that you need to get in order to make an apprehension. You need to see them, approach an area with, without, the merchandise. You need to see them select the merchandise that, you're going to stop them for eventually. You need to see them conceal that merchandise. Now, if they go into a fitting room or something like that, different companies have different policies about how they deal with those situations. But for the most part, I mean, you can still be stopped if you conceal something inside of a fitting room. Obviously, we don't have cameras in any of those areas, but we still have a way of knowing, if merchandise disappears. And then you need to make sure that you can have continuous observation, just to make sure they don't, like, discard the merchandise or anything like that. And then you need to see them pass all points of sale without paying for, said merchandise. And it's not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, there are a lot of times where, you have something that you're 99% sure. You're like, that one, shirt, or, that video game, or, whatever the case may be. It's gone. You can't find it. You know that it's gone. You know that person has to have it. But you have to be, aware enough and, emotionally, like, detached from it enough to be able to make the better, decision. Like, maybe I'm not going to try and stop this person because I'm 99% sure, but I'm not 100% sure, if that makes any sense. So then, if somebody does end up stealing, then at that point, we run out there and actually confront them, generally at the front door, or right before they hit the parking lot, and try to get them to come back. And at that point, every situation is different, and it is always a tough situation, but a lot of it's just trying to convince somebody that they need to come back and do the right thing, despite the fact that it's not going to end up well for them generally.
Wow. And I would have to imagine, here's something popping into my head. You probably got I'm sure you got teenagers. You got, like, your punk teenagers who just are, like, showing off for their friends. Let's go steal for fun. You got, I have a number of female friends in my life who have told me that shoplifting is like a popular thing among teenage girls, which I always find fascinating. So you have that. Then I'm sure you have people who are economically hard up, where it's like there's some heartbreaking level in which people are trying to feed their families, survive in some way. Then I'd have to imagine the scariest people to confront. You mentioned there's drug addicts. I would have to imagine you kind of have an idea of this person might have an issue and there's some real desperation here. And that must be scary. There must be some element where every time you stop someone, especially in that corner of the world, there's like an element that danger could happen, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, anytime that I go out to make, a stop on somebody, there's always the potential that they could become violent, that, they could pull a weapon or something like that. And so you kind of have to keep that in the back of your mind. I don't want to give the impression that, like it's the most safe job in the world, because there's always that element of danger. You are going out basically accusing somebody. And oftentimes people that have, criminal records and have, been in trouble with this type of stuff before. But I generally don't feel too uncomfortable going out, just because most people, I would say 99% of the people that I've caught, usually do the right thing and just come back. Or even if they try and run, they don't usually pull a weapon. I've been doing this for about 10 years and I've gotten punched 3 times. And I'd say that's a pretty good success rate. So
yeah, this is a good batting average.
It's not too bad.
Well, I do have to ask. Let me just go ahead and put this out here, okay? At the end of the day, this podcast is entertainment. So you've said it a number of times. It's on record. 99% of the time, people have a moment of truth. They do the right thing. They realize they're caught. The guilt sets in. Let's just correct this. Own up to it. Okay. I want to know about the 1%. What's the craziest shit you see? You got punched 3 times. What else? What's the craziest things people steal? What's the craziest thing that I want to hear the punching stories? What are we thinking here? I want to know about that 1% where it gets nuts. Trust your boy Gethard. Gonna ask about that one crazy percent. Put him on the spot. You know what I think is a good thing to do to just settle down and get ready for that? Hear about some products and services offered by our fine advertisers here at Beautiful Anonymous. Bring you the show for free. Please do enjoy them. Utilize these promo codes. Helps the show. And we'll be back with more phone calls. Springtime is a great time for many things, right? But especially to hit the reset button, okay? That way you can attack some personal goals like getting fit, cleaning up, or cooking. And luckily, Blue Apron makes incredible home cooking easy and accessible by delivering seasonal recipes with step-by-step instructions and pre-portioned ingredients right to your door, all for less than $10 per meal. You can even customize your recipes based on your preferences, select a delivery option that's right for you, and no weekly commitment. You only get deliveries when you want them. Some of the meals available in June include warm smoked trout and asparagus salad with fingerling, potatoes, and garlic croutons. That just got a lot of you to sign up. Spiced zucchini enchiladas with creamy lime and tomato rice. Get out of here. Elote-style vegetable tostadas with summer squash, poblano peppers, and cilantro rice. Peach honey glazed chicken with mashed sweet potatoes, collard greens, Thai basil. What is wrong here? There's nothing wrong about anything that I'm saying. I use Blue Apron. I love it. My wife and I, we sit down, we get together, divide up those ingredients, put on some music, chop everything up, do it together, and then we sit and eat this thing we made together. It's very great for the bonding in our household. And I can't believe that I'm able to pull off some of these recipes. So much. They make it so easy. Pictures, guides, and the recipes is great. Check out this week's menu. Get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/beautiful. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. That's blueapron.com/beautiful. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. You guys been watching The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu? I've been watching it. Me and my wife, we watched it on the iPad as we're falling asleep at night. And then guess what? I can't fall asleep because I'm thinking about the dystopian future and the inequality that's always at the precipice of society. Anyway, if you didn't know, Hulu has a new look and experience. It's more personalized and intuitive. You can create up to 6 personalized profiles, including a new kids mode, very important. You watch everything from the aforementioned Handmaid's Tale, one of my favorite shows. You can watch Harlots, watch Casual, and also current season TV like The Bachelorette, Family Guy, all the day after they air, and full seasons of favorites like Fargo, Blackish, Empire, all in one place. How good is that? And the new option to add live TV. You get ready to transform the way you experience TV, okay? Hulu with Live starts at $39.99 a month. This is an amazing deal because it includes limited commercials on the Hulu streaming plan. It also includes 50 plus live and on-demand channels, including sports. I'm an NBA lover, love college basketball. ESPN, FS1. I'll watch my Seton Hall Pirates on FS1. Okay, there's regional sports, there's news, can't miss events. It's perfect for Major League Baseball and the NBA Finals. Get it right now. Record live TV with your cloud DVR. That's 50 hours of storage included. And options to upgrade to up to 200 hours, okay? Get everything you need on there. Keep it. Available on iOS, Android, the new Apple TV, Xbox One, and Chromecast, with more devices coming soon. Enjoy all of your TV in one place with the brand new Hulu experience. Go to hulu.com. Start your free trial today. Thanks so much to the advertisers who helped make this show happen. It's much appreciated. Now let's hear more from our loss prevention expert. Okay, I want to know about the 1%. What's the craziest shit you see? You got punched 3 times. What else? What's the craziest things people steal? What's the craziest thing that I want to hear the punching stories? What are we thinking here? I want to know about that 1% where it gets nuts.
All right. So the best story about me actually getting hit was a couple years ago, about 5 years ago at this point. I was, middle of the day, just spinning cameras and, picked up on a couple of, 3 teenage kids, one boy, 2 girls that, came into a store. And it's the middle of the day. They should be in school. I'm thinking, what's going on? One of them has a big backpack. So I'm like, okay. And the kid that had the backpack, he is, found out later, but, he's 16 years old, but he's on the high school football team. He's a big kid, and I'm smaller. I'm about 130 pounds. I'm not a big guy at all. So he definitely has some height on me. Definitely has some weight on me. He ends up stealing a couple of things, putting in the backpack, including a pair of Superman feety pajamas.
His size?
Don't ask me why.
Or a gift? Is he gifting these to someone, or are these high school linebacker size?
Yeah, absolutely his size. He went with, he picked them out of the men's department. So he goes up to exit, and I go to stop him. I meet him right at the front door, and he just goes to plow right through me. Now, the company that I worked for at the time, they were hands-on, so I was completely allowed to touch him and try and restrain him within reasonable means. And it was the funniest thing, because just looking at the video later on, you just see this kid plow into me and push me back like you see football players practice when they're pushing the dummies in the line across the field. If you know what I mean? And
you have to watch that video of yourself later. You have to review this incident and watch yourself just get trucked by a teenager.
Oh, I love watching the video. I laugh at it every single time I watch it, just because it's perfect. But we tussle for a minute or so, and he drops the backpack and he runs out of the store. So I grab the backpack, start walking back into the store. At least, if nothing else, I recover the merchandise, and I plan on calling the police as soon as I get inside. Well, I take about 3 steps inside of the store, and that's when I realize that he's coming back in after me.
What?
So I turned around, and at this point, as soon as I turned around, he, hit me once to the left side of my face, knocked me completely on my ass. And then he, goes down, grabs the backpack, swipes at me again, and grabs the backpack, takes off, running out of the store. So at this point, I immediately call the police, and, try to get them in the area. But they were a little far, so they didn't respond until a few minutes later. But the good news is that, he's a local football player at the high school, so all we did was call in, the local high school officer, and as soon as the officer walked in, looked at the video, they're like, yeah, I exactly know who that kid is. And they went, picked the kid up at the house, and that was that. So it was an interesting one. I had to go and, testify on that, and go through all the court system and all of that stuff for the assault. Well, actually, the robbery at that point. Because as soon as you, even if there's no weapon present, as soon as you actually hit a loss prevention officer in the commission of the theft, it becomes a robbery, which is a felony, or at least in the state that I'm in. So.
Okay, so that's brutal.
Yeah,
so
and
this kid comes in, he's showing off for his friends, he's being an idiot, lifts this thing, freaks out when you confront him. Now it's assault, now it's robbery, now it's a felony. This kid, there's video evidence. This kid probably goes to some sort of juvenile offender, lockup. There's some tragedy there. You don't want to see a young person, throw their life away. But there is something that makes me laugh really hard about knowing that, like, the guy across the cell from him, it's like, what are you in for? And he's like, stole some Superman footy pajamas. And then his roommate's like, I'm embarrassed for you. I'm cringing in embarrassment for you. This is all for Superman pajamas. That's what the kid did it for, Superman pajamas.
Yeah, it's people do a lot of dumb stuff over, just, and honestly, the people that have fought the most with me, I went to court just last Thursday on another guy that ended up punching me, and this was just this past year, about a year ago, and he only had stolen a $20 tank top. So, I mean, it's really strange that people that feel, dumb stuff are the ones that usually end up fighting. And I've had people that have stolen over $1,000 of stuff, and they come back absolutely no problem. So it's weird, but I gotta say, and I'm really not trying to put myself over or anything with this, but I mean, this is just the way that I am. Like, the kid was 16. I went, I testified, I explained what happened, but at the same time, I also told, his lawyer, and I told the prosecutor, I get it. He's young. Like, I'm not gonna completely hold, too much against him. He made a mistake. When I was 14, I spent 4 days in juvenile detention myself. And I mean, that kind of, opened my eyes to just, there's a lot of people that, do some dumb things in the spur of the moment, that they're good people at heart. And so I'm not going to, I need to do what, like my company says to do as far as prosecution and things like that. But if, somebody's actually showing remorse, or if, I think that part of it's just somebody just made a dumb mistake, I have no problem telling the prosecutor or, the judge or the defense attorney or whatever, my opinion on those things too. So
yeah. Can I ask, what did you wind up locked up for?
It was for an altercation with, a friend. We got into a fight, and it was one of those things where, he didn't want to, but his parents, kind of wanted to press charges for assault and everything. And eventually that stuff ended up getting dropped after a long weekend. But it was I got picked up on on Black Friday. So I was in there for, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then got out on the Monday of Thanksgiving weekend. So.
Wow. So I would have to imagine, so both in your childhood, I would also have to imagine now Black Friday has to be, that has to be one of your biggest days of Black Friday is a running theme in your life, I would have to imagine.
Oh, absolutely. When I started doing this and, started working in retail in general, I'm like, why does this one day seem to suck every single year of my entire, my life since 14 until now? It's just every year.
Yeah, you got locked up on Black Friday at the day of 14 and age of 14, and that was your origin story. That was your origin story. Black Friday lockup, and now you've been helping the retail world ever since.
Yeah, looking back on it, it was definitely, a good experience for me, because, it sucked being there at the time, of course, but, looking back on it, I like having that experience, because now when I see, kids that, steal or whatever, that I have to talk to them, explain, kind of what's going to happen. I know the process firsthand. And, I have that mindset that, sometimes good people do stupid things. And so I don't hold it against them. I don't try to make them feel bad about it. That doesn't stop me from telling them generally that they absolutely suck at stealing, because most kids are not skilled at it at all. But it's just one of those things where I get it. People do dumb stuff sometimes.
What are the skills? So you can judge a thief's skills. You have respect for a skilled thief, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a million different ways to get stuff out of a retail store. Be it actually just taking merchandise out in a purse or in a bag or something like that, just picking it up and running out the front door or whatever. I'm certainly not going to go through every different thing because I don't want to give anybody any ideas out there. But I'm always impressed when people come up with new ways or new methods of getting merchandise out. And if I actually have to sit here and think about what they did, and that I love it because there's kind of an investigation aspect to it that I'm just like, okay, awesome. Well, when they come back next time, now I know.
So you have to evolve.
That's one of the most fun things about my job.
What's the most ingenious what's the most ingenious method you've seen someone pull off? Prosthetic suits to stuff full frozen turkeys inside a prosthetic stomach? I don't know why I went with frozen turkey.
That would be interesting. I've seen people come in here with they will limp into the store, ask for a wheelchair, and then use the wheelchair to get around, and then they will sit down on top of merchandise or something like that and try to wheel themselves out of the store. And as soon as you approach them, they just get up and they sprint out of the wheelchair as if they never had anything wrong at all with them. So I think people that fake an injury like that, it's very interesting. But I've also had some people that, again, it's tough. I mean, I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but there's been some really involved. Yeah, there's been some really involved methods where, I've sat there and I've had to watch them 2 or 3 times, just over the course of like a month, coming back in time after time before I've been able to finally pick up on, say, yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah. So, you ever get teams come in where one person acts really visibly shady, so you focus in on them and then the other person is on the sly?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times we have people that come in just small groups. I think the most people that I've caught one time has been 4. I just had 4 different people that have just had several $100s each of, usually it's something that has a decent resale value. So like Nike apparel, Levi jeans, razor blades, things like that.
Mm-hmm. I've heard people steal Tide a lot. I think I read an article in the New York Times that Tide is like, the detergent is so valued and it's pretty expensive, and that Tide thievery is like an epidemic, and people will pay for items into the black market with Tide. Say like, I'll give you 2 jugs of Tide for that thing.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't specifically have any experience with like a traditional like grocery store or anything like that. I have worked in stores that have sold Tide, and we've had some theft, but I think a lot of that stuff usually comes from like more traditional grocery stores. Yeah. And I also know that they have a lot of issues with beer and meat. Oddly enough,
meat.
I mean, yeah, I know that there are definitely some meat boosters out there that will go in, load their cart up with beer and meat, and try to push it out the front door.
Wow. So you could attend a cookout of all stolen goods. Barbecue, summer backyard barbecue.
Absolutely.
Everything's stolen.
I don't know who is thinking that there's. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't have any experience personally, but I don't know if there's really like a high, value on the black market for steaks. But yeah, I guess there is.
It might just be people who want to cook them themselves and taste the outlaw renegade spirit seared into the meat itself.
Maybe.
Wow. So when
I want to see somebody go into a grocery store and steal a couple lobsters.
You've seen that?
I think that would be an interesting thing. Yeah, I've never seen that. I want to.
A couple live lobsters. They bust out a fishing pole. Go back to that seafood section. Get a net. Somebody crouched over the thing with a net.
It'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I would like that too. I would have to imagine. Speaking of seeing funny things, you're looking at cameras all day. This is making me insecure because I feel like anytime I pick my nose, someone like you seeing it. You see weird stuff like that? You see people doing odd stuff when they think no one's watching? I bet you mentioned dressing rooms. I bet you must see like couples sneak off into the dressing room and you're like, oh God, here we go.
Once or twice. Depending on the retail store that I've worked in, I've seen some goofy stuff. I think my favorite things are just the things that, people don't have any idea that they're being watched. And so, you see them and, go in, pick up a scale off of the, like normal bathroom scale or something off the shelf, take it out of the box, put it on the ground, and then step on it to weigh themselves. And then, so I saw this, and the guy got off, and then he took his coat off, and he put that on the shelf, and then he stepped back onto the scale. I guess he didn't like what it said. And then he got back off, and then he took his shoes off. So he isn't now he doesn't have any shoes on. He's stepping back on the scale again. And after the third time of trying to weigh himself, it looked like he got pretty pissed, and so he put his shoes back on and snatched his coat off the shelf and just walked away from the area and just left the scale just sitting there on the floor. It's just weird little things like that.
Just quiet moments of humanity.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing what people do. And I always think when I go shopping and, just, my own life, what are people watching me do right now?
Yeah. Yeah. What an interesting perspective. So wait, I want to circle back to something. When you got in a fight with your friend, you got locked up for a few days. Was that an outlier? Or did you grow up? Were you were you a rough and tumble kid?
No, that was something that was completely an outlier for me. I was actually, one of the kids that never got into fights and generally got, pretty good grades and, was kind of a nerd. And the one time that I get into a fight, I learned my lesson on that one.
Yeah.
I'm also not a very good fighter, so I learned that as well. So at least I know that in my job now. I don't even attempt. It's not going to work out very well for me.
Yeah.
I'm good at taking the punch, but that's pretty much it.
Wow, yeah, you can roll with a punch. You've learned that. And with a football charge. It's good to know about yourself. What's your life like when you're not watching other human beings steal on cameras?
That's kind of so. A couple of weeks ago, I think I heard an episode that you did with a couple that were swingers, so that's something that me and my fiance are actually involved in as well.
Well, this took
we're
a turn.
a little bit younger than the couple that you had on before. You asked about how things were outside work, so that's something that's definitely on the forefront of my mind. Because it's
wow, we had like a whole half an episode
different
about one thing, and I think clearly we just learned this episode may never have been about that at all.
We can go in a number of different directions in the conversation, depending on what you want to talk about.
You tell me where to go. I didn't know. What if you're like, I never wanted to talk about work at all? We just got sidetracked on that. Here's the real story, man.
No. I can talk about work all day. I have stories for ages. So
you're swinger with the fiance? That's interesting. When did you guys start swinging? At what stage of your relationship? From the dating phase?
Not from the dating phase. We were going out for, I think, about 6 months before we finally decided that, it was something that we wanted to get into. And we went very slow with it. Primarily, we kind of had to at that age, just because. So I'm a little older than my fiance. I'm 27. My fiance is 22.
Okay.
So basically, when we first started out, she wasn't even 21 yet. So she really wanted to go to a sex, or like a swinger club. And all of those you have to be 21 in order to get into. So we were kind of waiting to go to that. And in the meantime, decided, that we may, kind of dabble a little bit with the swinging thing. So we had a couple of different, outings or, whatever with some people. And eventually, she turned 21. We were able to go to the club that she wanted to go to, and that's where we just kind of, met a lot of people that were kind of in that lifestyle and learned a lot more about it and got a little bit more invested in it. So,
Wow.
It's definitely a recreation at this point for us.
And you got people watching on cameras? You got the role reversal? You think in the swingers clubs?
No, never.
That was a joke.
Yeah, we haven't gone down that road, but I'm sure that probably exists.
Yeah. So you heard our episode. We had an episode at the time of this taping a few weeks back. Swingers. How does your experience compare to theirs? Any things that you heard that you were like, that's on target, or I have major differences in my swinging experience?
It's interesting because there's been a couple of I have some friends, actually swinger friends, that do their own podcast, and so a couple of times that I've listened to theirs, I've been like, oh, I really want to be involved in this conversation, and this was kind of the same thing when I listened to that episode a few weeks ago. Like, I was like, man, I really wish I could give my 2 cents on this conversation, because a lot of the stuff was, very on point. But there were a few things that I wanted to mention, just because it's my experience is definitely a little bit different. I think one of the questions that you asked the gentleman in that episode was in regards to being a male and kind of being in a situation where there is another male and kind of being comfortable or whatever, and so I'm bi, and so is my fiance, so we're both bi, and it's really interesting because there's definitely an openness to bi women in the swinging community. I feel like that's half of what it's built off of, but there is such a deep stigma against bi men that even on all of the swinging websites and the people that basically they're just deeply involved in that lifestyle, most men never actually say up front that they're bi, unless somehow it gets brought up in conversation later, or somehow it just gets alluded to or whatever. It's kind of underneath. So I think there's a lot more bi men that are into that, or that are in the swinging lifestyle, but it's definitely not seen.
So swinging is already kind of an underground lifestyle, and then there's a bi community within that community that's even more underground.
Yeah, I mean, like, and primarily, just for the men, like, I mean, because, like, again, like, there's bi females that are all over the place, and that's
right.
A huge, part of it. But I can't figure out why, but there is such a stigma to being, openly bi as a male, which seems strange to me, since it's a very obviously sexually open, type of community. But oddly enough, I've found that, especially since, me and my fiance, we're in our 20s, we're definitely, millennials, I guess you would say. And we're, liberal. We have a hard time finding a lot of, liberal swingers. It seems like a very conservative type of community.
You're saying swingers are conservative. Well, that's not a thing I expected to hear. Wow. Let me put this out here. We got 20 minutes left. I'm going to put this on the table. You said there's any number of directions we could go. I could keep talking to you about shoplifting. I could keep talking to you about being bi. I could keep talking to you about swinging. You said there's anywhere we want to go. There's a part of me that's like, we just had the episode about swingers. Do we want to cover it again? I don't really care. It's up to you. You tell me what we should be talking about. You got a lot of things. You're a fascinating person. I need you to tell me what we should spend our next chunk of time talking about, because I have a feeling you got a list. You got some bullet points. What should you tell me. And it could be something we brought up, could be something we haven't. I gotta say, it's been a little while since I've just been stopped in my tracks. I didn't know even what to even ask. There's so many options on the table. I need to take a breath. Gather my thoughts, figure out where this call should go. It's a great thing to do while I'm taking a breath is hear about some of the products and services that the sponsors of this show are bringing to the table. Sincerely check them out. A lot of very useful things. There's promo codes. If you use those, it really does help Beautiful Anonymous. So check them out, enjoy them. We'll be back with the rest of the phone call. Support for today's show comes from Squarespace. Whatever your next big idea is, you can count on Squarespace, okay? They'll help you create an eye-catching online platform to bring it right to life. Whether you need a portfolio, showcase your work, store to sell products and services, or a blog just to share your ideas, Squarespace gives you everything you need to look like an expert right from the start. You can even get a unique domain. That strengthens your brand, and branding is where it's at, baby. You got to know that brand, okay? Strengthen that brand. Make it easier for visitors to find you. Plus, Squarespace has award-winning templates. You can create a beautiful website. Very simple, very intuitive. You just click a mouse, go in the back. You don't need to know how to code. It's easy. You don't need to know how to install anything or get a patch or an upgrade ever. I do it myself, and I am not good at stuff like this. Squarespace actually makes it fun. Though if you do have a question, Squarespace has an award-winning 24/7 customer support. They'll help you with any problem, okay? No, it doesn't matter. It's trivial. Dude, that's not even a word in their vocabulary. They just help, okay? It's like your own IT department. So make your next move. Start your free trial at squarespace.com today. Enter offer code CG to get 10% off your first purchase. That is code CG at squarespace.com. Thanks again to all our advertisers. Now, let's go ahead and finish off this call. You got a list. You got some bullet points. What should you tell me? And it could be something we brought up, could be something we haven't.
Let me see. Well, how about this? Just why don't you lead with a question or so, just to kind of at least steer it in one direction or another, because I have stories from anything. I can tell you whatever, but I'm not. I don't know where you want to steer this ship. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's part of me wants to steer ship. There's also part of me that's like, if you were interviewing you and you wanted the thing that was going to entertain your podcast listeners the most, what would you tell me? But I guess that's not a fair question to ask. I don't know. Talk to me. Okay, talk to me about. I don't know. Talk to me about being bi. Talk to me about. Here's a question I have is. I would imagine that finding a partner and a fiance, I would imagine that is something that you discuss at some point while you're dating. From what it's a pretty stigmatized thing. My understanding is that it's a community where sometimes people say, "Oh, that's not real. You just don't want to come out of the closet as gay." Or you want to have it both ways. You don't want to be fully in on a struggle. You opt out when it's easy. I've heard of these these stigmatized aspects of it. Talk to me about those things. Talk to me about finding a fiance who's accepting. I would imagine it's a thing that is a moment of truth for you when you're dating someone.
So I mean, I can really only speak to my experience, and I gotta say, I really haven't had to deal with too much of that stuff. When I was, when I was younger, I played around a little bit with men, and I knew that this is something that I was, sexually into. But I never really had a very strong emotional connection with men. I've always been emotionally, in relationships with women. But I have no problem, playing around sexually with men. So. It's been very easy for me to be able to kind of keep it more under the radar or whatever. It's not something I really, ever dealt with a lot before kind of getting into the swinging community. As far as just what came up with, when me and my fiance talked about this, she actually was bi-curious when we first started dating. And it wasn't until we had that first experience with, another couple and swinging that she really had the opportunity to, kind of test the waters out, and, see kind of what she liked. And, after that, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely bi, I'm all in on that." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm kind of the same way, because she's doing, she's doing stuff with the other woman, and I'm doing stuff with the other man." And I mean, at different points, I look over and I'm just enjoying watching her, and she's looking over and she's, enjoying watching me. And it was something where, it just kind of came very naturally, and there wasn't really any, any downside to it. She doesn't think anything different of me. I don't think anything different of her. And I mean, I can't really say that it ever has been a problem.
That's cool. It's pretty smooth sailing. Impression I get, not everybody has that story. It's really good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's. I know she's kind of thought a lot more about, kind of what it means, for her to be bi, and all of the different, stigmas around that. Like, I think at one point her, she explained that she was bi to her parents, and of course they were, initially the first response was kind of like, "Oh, that's just a phase," and then towards the end of that conversation, it quickly turned into, I kind of had that phase in college. No, I get it, and that was just uncomfortable but funny.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where, I mean, I don't really think too much about it. I'm just kind of, I do me, and I don't really worry about what other people think about me being bi.
That's
But
cool.
again, it's also something I don't really publicize, except obviously on a podcast apparently.
Wow, that's cool. I feel like that's a story that you mentioned you're a millennial. I feel like that's a story that I find very inspiring about your generation. It seems like that's a thing that has really turned around from the time when I grew up, and it's pretty beautiful to see that you can just say, "Yeah, it's just a part of me." Not really too worried about it. I feel like that was like a not an option when I was a kid.
Yeah, and I know that those things, those stigmas still exist. I know that other people have it a lot harder than I have. So I mean, I don't want to try and downplay anything that anybody's going through. It's just I can only speak to my experience, and it hasn't been bad at all. So one thing I do want to go back to the loss prevention thing for a second, because
sure, let's dive back into loss prevention. I love that. Let's dive. Talk work. Talk personal life. Personal life will be on the fringe. Back to work. Love it. Go for it.
Well, so one of the really interesting aspects to this job is kind of being able to see the heroin epidemic
Oh wow!
from
Yeah.
an entirely different standpoint. And it's I feel like it needs to be said that 90% of the shoplifters that get caught, especially in big retail environments, are generally addicted to heroin. We rarely ever see any other type of drug, though we have seen meth and stuff like that on occasion, and sometimes cocaine, whatever. But it seems like heroin is just it sucks. I mean, for people, it's job security for me, unfortunately, but it's terrible. And some of the worst stuff that I've seen has been a result of people being addicted. Last year, I caught two people, a mother and a daughter. The daughter was 14 at the time. The mother, I think, was like in her 30s. And they came in, both completely empty purses, picked up a bunch of Nike merchandise, went to the fitting room, stuffed both of the purses, and then they, both went to go walk out with their, individual bags stuffed. So I stopped them, bring them back to the office. And as I'm waiting for the police to arrive, the daughter, the 14-year-old, she's sitting in a chair right across from me, and she starts to mess around with like the underside of her chair, and I can tell she's like trying to shove something up under there. So a few minutes later, officer comes in, and I'm like, hey, she may have shoved something underneath that chair, and come to find out she was trying to ditch a heroin needle. She was just as addicted as her mom was.
Oh, geez.
And she's 14 years old. They do it together. And that was hard, because it's not my place to tell people, how to raise their kids, but at the same time, it's really, really hard to look at somebody, doing that and not have an opinion on it.
Yeah, that's brutal. That's brutal.
I've seen people that, and I mean, I don't know how much of this is accurate. Sometimes people tell us stuff in order to try and get some sympathy, so we let them go without calling the police. That does not work, because I have to, contact law enforcement. But I had, one woman tell me that she was being, kind of pimped out by her, somebody that she knew, and that, basically she was staying in the crawl space underneath his house because she couldn't stay inside the house because his wife didn't know that he had this side business, I suppose. But hearing things like that are really tough, and you feel for every single person. But it's difficult because at the end of the day, that you still have to file charges. You still have to make sure that they hopefully get at least some court mandated treatment or something. So.
Wow. I feel bad about how much I was joking in the beginning about, like, what's the craziest stuff you've seen? Because at the end of the day, it comes down to a lot of hardened people with tough lives. It's a lot of what you see.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't think that anybody, well, I mean, so from what I've seen, I see primarily people that, do this as a way to, get by, either on just making it from day to day, feeding the habit of addiction, or I see people that come in and they just, usually kids, they feel like they can get away with something because they think they have the opportunity, and that 90% of people that are coming in here because they're feeding their habit, those are the tough ones, because it's just usually they have criminal records, usually they kind of know what they're getting themselves into, but they can't get out of it. And I always feel bad about that, but at the same time, I hope that by me catching them, maybe that might lead to them getting some type of treatment down the line, or realizing that they need some type of treatment.
Yeah. Are you in a city, suburb?
I'm in a city. It's not a very large city. Guess you consider like a B or a C, city. Definitely not like a New York or Chicago or anything like that. But
I'm in New York, A+ city.
For the company that I work for,
A+ city, New York.
For the company that I work for right now, our district, all the 15 stores that are in our district, we actually, we're a smaller city, but we've caught more people in the past, in the last year, than some of the bigger, cities like Baltimore, DC, some of those. So we're in a smaller city, but we have a lot of theft activity and a lot of booster activity.
And you attribute a lot of that to the heroin epidemic? You've just seen that uptick over your 10 years?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's from year to year, you can kind of see which way that, the drug trend is shifting. I've dealt with a few overdoses. I've had to, deal with that stuff a couple different times. And, that's always tough. But I mean, as I say, on one hand, it's job security for me. It means that my job's not going to go anywhere. But on the other hand, it is extremely sad for most of the people that I encounter on a daily basis.
And when you say overdose, you mean people overdosing in the store, and you're watching it on a camera?
So the two instances that I've had have been people that have overdosed in the bathroom, actually.
Oh, jeez.
So one of them, I watched a person come in the store, picked up on him. I'm like, yeah, okay, I think this person, might be good to watch. They immediately went to the restroom, and about a half an hour later, I'm just sitting there waiting for the person to come back out of the restroom, and I'm like, this person's taking an awfully long time. So I go in there just to, check it out, wash my hands, do whatever, and notice that this person is in a stall, door locked, but they're on the floor and kind of just laid out underneath, two different stalls. So I immediately, call 911, hop over to the stall, unlock it, try to at least make sure that, they're like on their side or whatever. So that way, in case they puke or, whatever the case is. But we try not to, touch anybody unless absolutely necessary. So it's always difficult too, because you don't want to do anything that's going to harm them. So I just waited for paramedics to get there, and I mean, they kind of dealt with most of it and gave them the Narcan. And it never ceases to amaze me that as soon as somebody gets Narcan and they come out from an overdose, they always come up swinging, and they always come up pissed off that you ruined their high. And it's like, you were blue, like you were dead. Like, I don't know why you're mad at this point, but I mean, every story that I've heard about ODs is the exact same. They always come up swinging, and they're always pissed off that their high got ruined.
Wow. You see, it's funny. It's like this sounds dumb. I was just about to say, like, you've seen a lot, but then it's like your actual job is to see a lot. Your actual profession is to see a lot, and then it's like, yeah, and then you certainly do.
Yeah, there's people, do a lot of stuff that, unless you specifically people watch, you never really notice. And I mean, I've seen people that come in here and, have affairs that they just use a store to meet up with, and you can tell that, they're just, having an affair or doing something. I've seen people that, come in completely drunk. I've seen people that, obviously come in and shoot up in the bathroom. It's just a variety of things that we end up seeing.
Yeah. You never think about that. There's these like places that are these public places, and every type of person passes through, and there's somebody whose job is to be watching all those people. Never thought about that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different side of retail. I don't think that most people, realize is there unless they have an experience with it themselves. Some people might see us, run out and stop somebody or something like that, but you never think when you go to a store that somebody's probably being paid to sit and watch everything that goes on, and somebody's probably watching what you're doing at any given moment.
Wow. What, is there like a time of year that's like shoplifting season, time of day? Is it when school lets out? Do you really have to sit on the edge of your chair? What are the trends?
I would say time of the year is really just like, we call it fourth quarter. So it's between November and the end of January. Just this past year, I think we caught maybe 50 plus people just in those 3 months. I know I caught at least 25 people in January alone. So it was almost one a day.
Yeah. Why is that? Is that just there's more people
as far
shopping?
As time of day,
it's crazier. It's easier to get away with, so people are attracted to it more.
I think so. I always, I don't have any hard data to back this up, but I also think that it being the holidays, there's also a lot of people that maybe dive into the drugs a little bit more to make it through it, because it's a hard time of the year for a lot of people, I think. But that, and maybe there's a lot of people that are trying to get presents for people, or get money for presents for people, or whatever the case may be. But it's definitely a big time of the year.
Yeah. Wow.
This time of the year is usually pretty mellow. We don't catch nearly as many people per month, just because the foot traffic is a lot lower. But it's still almost a couple times a week there's people that are going to come in and do something stupid. So
yeah, I gotta say, man, we got about a minute and a half left. I'll just put out there on my end, this was such a fun conversation. Good, fascinating talk. Ever since you told me that mom and daughter story, I've been pretty bummed out. Can't get it out of my head.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't like seeing that stuff, but it's part of the job.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having me on. It's definitely good to have a conversation to get some of this stuff out. Maybe it's something that people will think about the next time that they're out and about inside of a store or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast will never enter a retail environment completely the same ever again. They'll always give a little glance up to that corner camera, knowing wink and a nod.
Well, who knows? Maybe I'll be in one of the stores that that person's in.
Oh, wow. So if you live in a mid-sized city in America, our caller might be watching you right now. You got your headphones in, you're trying to do some shopping? Our current caller could be watching.
Very possible.
We got 15 seconds left. Anything else you want to put out there?
No, I think I'm good. Just, thanks for having me, and don't steal anything.
A great lasting message. Thanks so much. Thank you so much to today's caller. What a fascinating call. Full of information about a lifestyle I didn't know about. As far as loss prevention, and then also a few other lifestyles that I don't know much about. And then back to another lifestyle that I previously thought I was just learning about, and then I saw the dark underside even that. What a weird call, and a fun call, and a fascinating call. And caller, thank you so much. Very cool stuff. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who listens and supports this show. And thank you to the people who helped build this show in the early days, the Reverend John DeLore, Greta Cohn. People who are helping right now, the people in the booth on the ground with me, Jared O'Connell, Harry Nelson. Thanks to Shellshag for providing all our intro music and interstitial music. Shellshag is incredible. Please do support them. Want to know about me when I'm getting out on the road? ChrisGeth.com. Check it out. And if you like this show, you subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you leave a rating, review, it really does genuinely help so much. So please do, if you're so inclined. And thanks as always for listening, and we'll see you next time with more Beautiful Anonymous. Hulu has a new experience that lets you watch everything from Hulu originals to full seasons of favorites like Fargo and Empire all in one place with ease. And guess what? Something really new, something very cool, a new option to add live TV. You can get limited commercials Hulu streaming as well as 50 plus live and on-demand channels starting at just $39.99 a month. That is a great deal. You get access to sports, news. You can record live TV with the cloud DVR. This is a game changer, you ask me. Enjoy all of your TV in one place with the brand new Hulu experience. Go to hulu.com to start your free trial today. Next time on Beautiful Anonymous, a very pleasant phone call gets surprisingly tense.
I'm not talking like Jersey Shore. The car, come on. And like Boston
That's
and New York.
Boston and Jersey are 5 hours apart. Lumping us all together. You said Jersey says car? That's Boston. Jersey.
It's everything up there is northern.
Me and you are in a regional fight now. Jersey, we say, Jersey. That Jersey thing is made up. No one has ever talked like that. That was made up for, I think Joe Piscopo made that up for SNL sketches. Here's how we really talk in Jersey. We say horrible, awful, dog, coffee, terrible, various. Sound like Carmela Soprano. That's next time on Beautiful Anonymous.
We are excited to announce the launch of Stitcher Premium. It is the new subscription service that brings all of your favorite free and premium podcasts together under one roof.
Here's the deal. Yes. Explain the deal to me.
With Stitcher Premium, you get access to the same exciting content as Howl.
More than 250 hours of exclusive original shows.
That's so awesome.
I know, right?
More than 120 comedy albums, ad-free archives, and bonus episodes.
So, where's Richard Simmons? Where do we start?
If you're a Howl subscriber, this is great news.
With Stitcher Premium, you no longer have to switch apps to listen to premium content.
You can listen to the exclusive Howl shows you love in Stitcher alongside your favorite free podcasts. Your Howl account info, like favorites and playlists, and your listening history can easily be transferred over to Stitcher.
Musical guest.
To learn more about Stitcher Premium, just go to stitcher.com/premium.
Stay flippy.
This has been an Earwolf production, executive produced by Scott Aukerman, Chris Bannon, and Colin Anderson. For more information and content, visit earwolf.com.